Our psalm today is Psalm 19. C.S. Lewis, in his book, Reflections on the Psalms, says of Psalm 19, "I take this to be the greatest poem in the book of Psalms and one of the greatest lyrics in the world. It is divided into 3 parts. The first 6 verses are about nature, how the things that God has made, in particular the heavens and the skies, speak to us about the one who made them. So I thought it might be good today for those of us watching this thought for the day, rather than listening to it on the phone line, to see some pictures of the heavens and the skies. But the first verses, the heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech, night after night they display knowledge. In Romans 1 verse 20 we read, "Since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power, how great he is, and his divine nature, how good and holy he is," Paul says, "have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse." In other words, Romans 1 verse 20 and Psalm 19 verses 1 to 6 tell us that even if someone lived in the middle of the jungle or on a distant deserted island, far away from any church, any Bible, or any Christian preacher, yet God has made sure that they would not be left without a witness to his great power and love. Looking up, looking around, looking out into the vastness of the night sky, or watching the rolling clouds and the passage of the sun during the day, the moon and distant stars during the night, they could and should still perceive the wonder and the majesty, sense the reality and presence and glory, not of creation, but the one who made it and sustains it. Verse 3 can be read 2 ways of Psalm 19. They have no speech, they use no words, no sound is heard from them, yet they declare his glory. But it can also be read, there is no speech or language where their voice is not heard. There's no speech or language where their voice is not heard. Verse 4 says, "Yet their voice goes out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world." Wonder and awe, the sense of the holy, is a universal language. And in verse 4, we're reminded that it isn't the wonderful things that we see around us that are worthy of our worship. It is God whose glory it all proclaims. God who has established even the sun, pitched a tent for it in the heavens. The ancient peoples worshipped the sun as the life giver. But Israel knew the God who called light into being. The next 5 verses of Psalm 19, after verse 6, go on to speak not so much about the general revelation of God's glory seen in the heavens and the skies above, but about the specific revelation, the specific word the Creator has spoken to us, to humanity, to guide and enable our living on the earth beneath. In the same way as there is nothing that can hide from the heat of the sun, so there is no one who is not sought out and found out by the law of the Lord. In the same way as the sun that God has made rises and shines so that nothing can hide from its light and life-giving heat, so the psalmist also celebrates God's spoken, written word. In verse 7, "The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. The statutes of the Lord are trustworthy, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, giving joy to the heart. The commands of the Lord are radiant, giving light to the eyes. The fear of the Lord is pure, enduring forever. The ordinances of the Lord are sure and altogether righteous. They are more precious than gold, than much pure gold. They are sweeter than honey from the honeycomb. By them is your servant warned. In keeping them there is great reward." If God is great and God is good as the created things around us say, if he is power and love, well, what could be better than living life his way? What could be worse than choosing to be ignorant of all this great and good God has given and spoken to us to help us? The God who made the sun to shine also gives us his light to live by in the Bible. But against the backdrop of God's power and greatness, heard and seen in what he has made, and the goodness and love in his sharing with us, telling us how we can best live. In Psalm 19, David knows that while the law of the Lord is perfect, he is not. Who can discern their own errors, he says. Forgive my hidden faults. Keep your servant also from willful sins. May they not rule over me. Then will I be blameless, innocent of great transgression. The sun only shines, David effectively says, but the God who pitched a tent for the sun in the heavens, he not only shines, he forgives. And so Psalm 19 ends with that wonderful prayer, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my Redeemer. This great God is a personal God, to be personally known, to be personally glorified. And David doesn't just mean, may some of my words, and he doesn't just mean, may some of my meditation be pleasing in your sight. He wants all that he says and all that he thinks to be pleasing to the Lord, who is his steadfast rock and his loving Redeemer. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my Redeemer. Friends, sometimes the skies are just overcast. The sun hidden behind a uniform, dull grey sky. Sometimes at night, the stars, the planets, even the moon are covered and hidden. Sometimes the skies are overcast. Sometimes the heavens are obscured. But the next time it is a clear day, maybe with a few clouds skidding overhead, or the next time it's a clear, frosty night, with the moon, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, the Bear, the Little Dipper, Cassiopeia bright shining overhead. Well, why not go outside? Why not look out, look up, and listen to what it is the heavens and the skies are trying to tell you? Why not go out, take a look, have a listen to the witnesses God put in place long before you were made, to the witnesses that will still be there long after you have left. Watching the clouds, the skies, the heavens, the stars. Who knows what songs you might hear in these days and nights of lockdown.